This is the 11th event in IREX's Technology and Civil Society Speaker Series. And today we're very happy to be hosted by the World Bank. And particularly, we're very happy to be making connections among organizations that are interested in the same issues. Before we move on, I want to acknowledge the People Technology Foundation and Friends of IREX for providing the support for this series, as well as the World Bank for sharing some of the costs in putting on today's event. Normally, in the series so far, we've looked at a specific tool that connects technology to civil society. Today's event is a little bit different. We're looking at how we can make sure communities, and particularly those on the margins, have access to technology. How did IREX come to this topic? We've been implementing the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's Global Libraries program in Ukraine and Romania since 2007. These programs aim to give millions of people in those countries access to the resources of the internet at their local library by providing equipment and training and ideally rejuvenating the library system in each country. IREX has been conducting programs that use technology as a tool for development for the past 2 decades, mainly working with telecenters and training. But through these library programs, we've really seen how libraries can be a central part of the equation. In many countries, the library system already blankets the country, and there are institutions that are dedicated to the spread of information, and they're staffed with people who are trained to help others find information. Yet in many discussions about access to information, libraries are left out.
The definition of broadband is evolving. It used to be commonly recognized around 200 kilobits per second. I think almost everyone thought that was much too low. The United States has last year increased the minimum level of broadband definition to 768 kilobits per second. I think that's still way too low. I think a realistic definition of broadband has to start at 1 megabits and then go higher. Certainly a library, because of the multiple computers and multiple users, really needs 10 to 100 megabits in order to handle all the traffic. So the amount of it's very hard to say what is the definition of broadband for those 2 reasons. One, that it's evolving and increasing over time, and 2, because that the minimum amount that you need will vary based on the institution that you're talking about, whether you're a school or a library or a business or an individual at your home. So unfortunately, I hesitate to give one single answer to the definition of broadband. As to the funding, my understanding is many of these countries who are putting in public funds are providing grants or low-interest loans, but a lot of grant money that they are not expecting to get back directly and to be repaid. And that's because increasingly these countries are viewing broadband as an essential infrastructure, like roads and highways, like trains, like energy, and basic necessities that the governments are now realizing this is not money down the drain. To issue grants to build broadband infrastructure may not pay back immediately. It may not be a loan that is repaid immediately, but it'll generate enormous economic growth. And so it will be repaid in the amount of investment that you're making in the infrastructure will then generate greater tax revenue, greater economic productivity in that country, which will then benefit the country down the road. So it is very much a long-term approach, which I tend to think is the right approach.
On a policy level, it's in the case of Romania especially, it's having the government understand that through broadband, through libraries, through other institutions, education institutions, you can use these instruments and these tools to actually help build society. Once that is understood, and through programs like the program we're implementing currently in Romania, that becomes, it's more illustrative, and we're able to then pass the information we're learning on to the government. So a lot of what we're doing right now is trying to help governments understand why it is important to invest and go into these types of communities, help underserved populations receive access, what happens once they do, so that they can further develop policies that will help in future years.
But I also want to add the critical human element, because content is only as good as people can help you access it. And that's where libraries have an advantage, is that they have trained knowledge workers. They have people who are trained to help you access information. And I think when you talk about people who are marginalized, you can be marginalized in a lot of different ways. And if you have a library worker who has gone through a training and who understands what it means to reach out to a community that might be afraid to come to the library, whether it's women, whether it's a certain ethnic population, you build a sense of trust and you build a sense of inclusiveness that wouldn't exist otherwise. But then you also have the literacy component. And you made the point earlier that most people who come to the library are literate, and that's very true. But we also have to remember that many people who come to the library serve as information intermediaries. They are there on behalf of someone else. We see that in the United States. We see that around the world. And so understanding how you can help that person reach out to someone else who may not be coming to the library for whatever reason helps reach those marginalized people, because those people are marginalized in their own way as well.
Honestly, this has been quite eye-opening for me, because we've never really focused on the library in terms of our initiatives.
We get that a lot.
Our partners have been the universities, the community centers, the government agencies, the healthcare clinics. The universities, obviously, it will wire the university library, but we've never focused our intervention specifically on the library.